everyone, and welcome to Supplies Cuisine. My name is Harper, if did not know, and today I am going to continue my taste testing slash then reviewing challenge video series, that's what it's called. Also, my dog's in the background eating a biscuit, so if you can hear that, that's what that little like mwah, 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 mwah sound is, because he's a very, very loud eater. And today we'll be reviewing the Korean, or I should say P.F Chang's Korean-inspired pork bowl dinner. I'm probably just gonna call it the Korean pork bowl dinner thing. I'm not sure what to call it because it doesn't really say it, which is really annoying. It just says Korean-inspired. Like, I can't put that in a stupid title, but whatever. You know, it didn't accommodate for me, sadly. And what I'll be reviewing it on are really just like two criteria, or three, let's say three criteria. Number one, does the reality correlate with a very highly edited, probably took hours to make picture that is on this box? As somebody who made this dish and is letting, you know, it cool off so I don't die of like third-degree burns on my tongue, I can tell you right now, doesn't look like this. Number two, what I usually say is the most important, is of course, does it actually taste good? I usually review it off of a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being never again, can't even eat it, you know, now, you know, can't finish it, to 10, loved it, finished it, would have it again, which goes on to the third criteria, which is this worth the price? This is actually like less than $3 at the store, I think, so it wasn't a bad price, it was on sale, you know, price, but is this worth a buy? Is this worth, you know, going and getting and making at home? So that is the plan for today, and let's continue with that. I actually, as I said before, it's now cooling off, but it's been in the freezer for a couple seconds, so I think ready to go. Also, I'm very impatient, so I'm just gonna say it's ready to go and continue on. Okay, so we have the dish. As you can probably see, does not look like the packaging. Just a second. What they say you would get, what you actually get. Yeah, doesn't really look like the thing. Actually, I need to take a picture of this for my Instagram, so 1 second. So we're also using chopsticks because, you know, Asian American, blah, blah, blah. As you can probably see, they're a little bit weird. Number one, this one's okay. This, on the other hand, is like bent a lot. You can probably see right here, it's really bent, and it's also burned on the top because I used it to use for making hot dogs when I was little one time. Little as in like less than 5 years ago, which, yeah, I was still in my teens, so I'm not sure I can still use the whole like innocent child excuse, but I'm still going to. But more or less, I'm just going to actually see how it tastes. You know, we're going to start reviewing it. These chopsticks are very hard to, you know, put together after this one all bent and weird, but let's see how it tastes. Let's see. It smells pretty good, and these chopsticks are way too hard to use. Okay. Let's try to get some of the pork. Okay, not gonna get the pork. So noodles first. Okay, so I've had, you know, I've had like, I would say like more than probably a third of this, and I'm just gonna start talking right now. My mouth is kind of burning a little bit, so if I slur my words more than usual, that is why. I forgot to say that this has a, what's that? 3, 4, oh my god, it's on right now, I can't see a thing. 4 out of 5, little tiny spicy hot jalapeno pepper thingamabobs that means spice level, so it's pretty spicy. I have to say, it actually is. I was born in a region of the world where, you know, they're known for their like spices. Then I came to America at the age of 10 months old, and then lived in St. Louis. It has spices, but it also is very Midwestern, bland, salt kind of spice region area. So that whole, oh, I'm tough with spices, it may be true genetically, but with experience, you know, nurture wise, not as much. I do love my sriracha though, and my Tabasco. And when I go to, you know, different restaurants, blah, 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 I do like spices. But more also with my, you know, little biography about my life, I'm trying to say that my, like, spice tolerance, I might be more of a wuss than I think I am. So this might not be as bad for other people who actually grew up with spices that are very hot for their whole life, you know, versus me who hasn't really. But, you know, this definitely did kick me a little bit more than I thought, and it definitely has that still, you know, burning sensation you get after spices. So they did a pretty good job on that. I honestly just say, this is actually pretty good. Like, for the price, this is pretty great. The portioning isn't, like, the best. You know, this is definitely, you know, a small dish, and it's not that bad. But, you know, I think that people usually like to have other things with it, and before you know it, it's a big old meal, and you're, like, you know, dying of sodium intake. But actually, how bad is the sodium intake? Oh, it's pretty bad. It's 45%. That's pretty bad. But more or less, with the review, it is, like, the spices are definitely there. It's sweeter than I like. I'm not a big fan of savory and sweet things together, so having it pretty sweet kind of, like, freaks out my taste buds. I personally want more salt on it, but, you know, I want salt on everything, so I can't really use that as an excuse. I had to say, like, the noodles, they're nice. You know, they're a pretty good texture. Like, they're pretty thick, you guys can probably see. You know, they're nicely cooked. They taste pretty good. They're, like, definitely, you know, you could say that the blandness to, like, help balance out everything else, which I really like. They're, you know, nice and thick. You know, they have a little bite in them. You know, not like in a uncooked way, more, you know, as a al dente way, which I really like. There are actual vegetables in it. You know, there's not like tiny little pieces. No, there's actual real life, you know, big chunks of vegetables. You know, case in point, that's a vegetable. And I think the best part of the dish is the pork. Now, I usually just say that pork is really hard to make right, especially when, you know, you're having it as a frozen food item, and they do an insanely good job. The pork is tender, it's falling apart. You know, it's not falling apart, but it's tender. You know, when you bite into it, it, you know, tears off really nicely. You know, it kind of melts in your mouth a little bit. There's a tiny bit of fat on it, which makes it, you know, nicer and, you know, easier to eat. It's not chewy at all. It's seasoned really well, and it's a little bit salty, so it really goes well with the whole sweetness of the dish. And honestly, this is way better than I ever thought it was. I had very low expectations, which is probably also a really good thing, but this has definitely blown my expectations out of the water and then on to different continent. It's really, really good. If you do like, you know, Korean inspired dishes, you know, more like a Asian flair twist, blah, 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 I think you will really like this dish. If you're more, you know, traditional, make it yourself, or, like, you know, go to an actual, like, Korean restaurant, because this definitely is an Americanized dish. I think it's sweeter than it probably should be, and it has way more sodium than it really should, and I probably would need more vegetables, a little bit more pork to really be, you know, a really good dish to me. I would personally give this an 8 out of 10. It's really good. I probably will never have this again just because it is quite sweet, and I don't really like that, but this is definitely a really good dish. And on top of that, it's not oily at all, which I really like that. A lot of dishes like this, when it comes to frozen food meal dishes, they usually are very oily to, like, keep everything together. This, thankfully, is not oily at all, or maybe it is, but it's, like, not oily enough that it freaks me out, so I really like it. As again, I probably won't have this ever again, but I will definitely enjoy this for my lunch. And with that being said, that is in the video. So of course, if you like this video, click that like. If you want to see more from what, just subscribe. Comment below, have you had this dish? And if you have, what do you think about it? You know, this is just my, you know, personal, very unique take on it. It might be different. Also, the sun is slowly going down because it is cloudy outside, so watch, you know, the whole background just darken really quickly because it's fall. And with that really bad and slightly rambling outro, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I will see you next time, and as usual, goodbye!